Recording in progress.
There you go. All right, welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Corporation Township of Prislinch on October 25th, 2023. I will start with roll call. Councillor Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Hurst. Present. Councillor Goya.
Present.
And Councillor Spoulis.
Present.
Excellent. Now this will begin our moment of reflection. All right, that concludes our moment of reflection. Confirmation of the agenda, please, Ms. Whitefox.
The council approves the October 25th, 2023 agenda as circulated, and the council approves the addition to the agenda as follows. Consent item 6.1, questions received from council seeking additional information and the corresponding responses provided by staff.
I'm gonna move for that. Councillor Bailey, second by Councillor Hurst. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest today. None. All right, I believe Mrs. Sand is going to lead us through next part of the agenda. I think I come in and get you all rattled right at the beginning of the meeting. Apologize. Anybody can- Morning, Mary.
Can you see the screen?
Ken.
Okay, perfect.
Zoom in a little. Or is that her? Can you zoom in just a smidge, please?
Yeah.
Go to.
Is that a little bit better?
That's better. John, you're the oldest. Can you read that?
I without my glasses.
Okay. You got them on. We're good.
This report has been provided to you similar to previous years. I'm going to quickly just summarize some of the key items. And then I'd be happy to answer any of council's questions. And then after that, we can go through the schedules, and department heads are here to answer any of the technical questions related to their projects. So we have commenced the budget process in September and October of this year, working collaboratively amongst our senior leadership team. Some of the projects that are currently being funded by the capital tax levy are noted on page 4 of the agenda package. As you can see, the reserve contributions to the asset management, corporate information technology, and gravel roads improvement are included in there. There's some studies and plans that are included in there. And there is a new asset that's included in there. However, there could be the potential to have a different funding strategy for that new proposed pickup truck based on some of the questions that were asked by council after the agenda package went live. So currently the proposed capital tax levy is 1.5 million. Last year it was 1.3 million. So the proposed increase is 189,000 at this time. But as we all know, it is a reiterative process, and we will be providing the capital budget to council again at a later meeting, as well as the operating budget, including the proposed tax levy for operating and capital at a future council meeting. We have received some further information on the impacts of Bill 23 as it relates to the 2019 development charges background study that the township currently has. That's set to expire in September of 2024, and its impact on administration studies because of Bill 23, in which administration studies are no longer eligible to be funded by DCs. So there's some information here just regarding some of these impacts as it relates to administration studies and what's recommended for September 2024 to have a new DC bylaw in place in order for the township to be able to collect DCs. Bill 23 did also make some changes in terms of the phase-in of the DC, as well as DC bylaws being expired after 10 years moving forward. So our current bylaw expires after 5 years, but once we implement a new DC bylaw, it will have a new expiry date of 10 years based on the impacts of Bill 23. There is a recommendation or council direction that's needed as it relates to establishing a new discretionary reserve pertaining to the report specifically says administration studies, but as you can see, there are different types of not just studies that are being funded by tax levy. It includes inspections, various assessments or whatnot, and it may be a good idea to make, if council does want to establish the new discretionary reserve at this time, to make it more general in nature to help with the tax levy impact year over year, or stabilize that impact. So we did receive some updates from the county as it relates to the gravel pits assessment update. So we are hoping to process the 2017 to 2023 additional taxation related to the gravel pits in 2024. And we have been notified that hopefully the 2024 returned assessment roll from MPAC will include the new assessment associated with the appeals. So we are working with the county to determine the financial implications so that we can incorporate it in the 2024 proposed operating budget. But based on discussions with the county, that may not be until early 2024 after the returned assessment roll has been provided by MPAC. So we are, Justine and the clerk's team is working on a report for council's consideration as it relates to the information technology review. One of the questions that came out of the council questions and answers was what could fund some of these recommendations. And so we do have that modernization funding that could be utilized. And also we do have an information technology discretionary reserve that could be utilized. The next section of the report just discusses some significant projects in the township related to the regionally significant economic development study area, phase 1 and phase 2. So this just outlines where these are noted in the capital budget and forecast, and the employment study will be a collaborative effort with the County of Wellington, and so they are funding a portion of the study as well. And we've just noted some information about our upcoming county BRNE funding grant applications that we're working through, because we do have a lot of economic development initiatives coming forward in the next few years. A lot of the items in this report come out of a lot of the direction from council at its meeting held on September 6, 2023 related to service levels. And so we've just provided some additional information here in the report related to the downtown revitalization project that we're hoping to collaborate more with the County of Wellington Economic Development Department on. So we will be reporting back on that after we work with the county and just as it relates to the traffic calming streetscaping Morrison work. The asset management plan and policy updates. The Ontario Regulation 588-17 requires that we update our asset management plan and policy every 5 years. As we all know, there have been a lot of changes since 2019 in terms of the 2023 roads management plan and other items that will need to be incorporated in our asset registry and the upcoming system implementations as it relates to the budget system and the asset management system. These are significant system implementations, and staff are in the process of preparing a report for council's consideration regarding options for consideration, whether it be staff resourcing requirements or consulting assistance. The Recreation and Parks Master Plan, we've just provided some information in here as to how we budgeted for this in 2024 and 2025. And again, this came out of direction from the service level meeting. The parks pickup truck, we did report on this at council's meeting on September 27th. And it was council's direction to defer this until we discuss capital budget. And so one of the questions that came out of council, I've already previously indicated, and so we could look at funding this in a different manner upon council direction, and we can update it in our next budget report that relates to capital budget. The parking lot and associated enhancements project, it's come in at 450,000, with a portion of it being county funded, 17% of it, in accordance with an agreement that we have in place. And the additional costs do relate to the new light towers and lighting upgrades. The previous budget approved included this at 300,000. There's some information in here regarding Boreham Park and council's direction at previous council meetings, and also an updated memo from GM Blue Plan regarding options and staff's recommendation moving forward on this park. The proposed road rehabilitation projects are summarized here, including some of, there's a schedule attached to the report just related to some of the direction that came out of the September 6th council meeting for everyone's information. And some questions that came out from council related to the cost estimates noted in the 2023 roads management plan. We are working with GM Blue Plan to refine those cost estimates so that they are more site specific. And we're going to prioritize the next 5-year projects at this time. LAS will be coming to council at an upcoming council meeting to discuss the automatic speed enforcement service, and this came out of previous council direction. The Kirk Crescent Stormwater Management Facility, we did provide the request to the county, and unfortunately we weren't successful in that request. And it is recommended that we investigate other cost recovery options. So the next few sections of the report just discuss our discretionary reserves and what's being recommended as it relates to the budgeted contributions to these discretionary reserves. The full transfer of the 528,000 that's estimated for the aggregate levy is being recommended in accordance with council's direction last year. And it does make sense to keep this in public works capital rather than operating. There's some information here about the asset management discretionary reserve and the projected balance in this reserve. I do anticipate that this projected balance, because there are some deficit balances noted, that will be hopefully addressed through the refining of the cost estimates in the roads management plan. The majority of the increase relates to the cost estimates noted in the plan. And we will be reporting back to council on the upper and lower limit thresholds for the asset management plan. But I do want to see how those refined cost estimates will impact the reserve before we report back on that. There's some information in here about the gravel roads improvement discretionary reserve and its projected balance based on the current capital budget presented to council. And there's also some information in here regarding the proposed contributions to this reserve, which are being proposed to be increased by approximately 50,000 each year based on council direction at the September 6th council meeting. There's some information about the general surplus and how we've allocated that in the past, and that we will provide the surplus or deficit as of December 31st, 2023, after the audit's completed, similar to previous years. There's some information here regarding parkland dedication. Fortunately, we did receive a significant amount of cash in lieu of parkland and development charges due to a non-residential development that occurred. That's being worked on right now in 2023. So this just discusses that restricted reserve. and some information regarding development charges and what we've collected to date. And our various development charge restricted reserves, again, through the development charges background study that's proposed to be completed by September 2024. These balances will be reflected in that work. Similar to the asset management discretionary reserve, the roads and related services DCs are showing a deficit balance from 2028 to 2033. But through the refining of those cost estimates, I'll be able to report back to council on what the balance is looking like over the forecast period. The administration studies DC, that's the current balance projected at year end, and this will be adjusted as part of the 2024 DC background study. There's some information in here about our major known capital grant funding and amounts per year, and how we fund projects utilizing these grants. Some information regarding how the estimated amount for the aggregate levy recovery was determined, and that it is proposed to fund public works capital projects over the forecast period. The capital forecast has been prepared taking into consideration many different items, but this year the items that have been incorporated that were recently completed are the OSM report and the roads management plan. Again, similar to previous years, we do have a lot of engagement opportunities that we will be incorporating in the 2024 proposed budget process. That's just a quick summary of the report. I'd be happy to answer any of council's questions.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I'm gonna pull an audible here. I think what we're gonna do is go to the base budget increase sheets on page 34 of the agenda. I think most of them are pretty straightforward, so we can get them dealt with quite quickly. And I believe the compensation and benefits review is the first one.
I see the wildland firefighting equipment package, which is on page 32.
Sorry, I scrolled too far. Do we have Chief Mulvey here? No, okay, I don't. Yeah, so anyways, so we'll be just giving a quick summary on this one. Everybody's seen the recommendation that it's coming from development charges. So on the wildland firefighting equipment, does anybody have any concerns or questions? Am I going too fast?
No, my computer's not.
I'll go around the table. Councilor Hurst?
No, I don't.
Nope.
I'm good. I'm good too. Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I don't think I had any notes there.
That one's through development charges, so it's
Yeah.
doesn't have impacts on that.
So through Mr. Chair, are you looking to, and maybe our director will help, are you looking to approve some of these
Yes.
today to be, okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
You need a specific resolution for each one or?
Nope, I'll just listen.
Okay. The next one is the compensation and benefits review. With our asset management plan being underfunded in the most recent report, and I believe we may be getting some new information on that. I was thinking we could maybe shelve this one until we know a little bit more about our asset management plan, the needs on, what the impacts will be on the base budget. Is that
Yes,
fair?
so through Mr. Chair, I can just make a note that if there's any questions or comments related today to that study, otherwise we'll just defer it to a later report when we have more information on budget.
so closer? Is council comfortable with that? At this time? So that's the only one I think will be deferred. I guess which was this one? So this one, again, you see the report in front of you, conservation and demand management plan. Mostly funded through development charges. So any concerns on this one approving it today? No, that one's good. What's next? Public Works, gas fired infrared heaters and public works shop. Through asset management plan, any concerns through that?
We need heat.
No. I'm glad to see it's not electric. Electricity is expensive out here. That goes against the grain on the normal thinking right now. Replacement of UV pure water treatment system at the municipal office, again, asset management and building surplus reserve. Any concerns in approving that one? No, we're good. All right, same consideration for another building, PCC of the Cashew Parkland. No. Oh, good, everybody's good. Oh yes, this one I had a comment on. Replace all the doors and windows at the PCC, and that's again, Cashew Parkland. Any questions or comments? I have one, go ahead, you got one.
I didn't. This cost based on the amount of windows and doors that are in the PCC, especially since this doesn't include the front door, seems quite high. But I just want to understand that this is just an estimate, and obviously if it comes in significantly less than that, I guess this question is to Mary. The remaining amount will remain in that reserve, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Any other questions or comments from council? Mike's on the call. So my question would be to the director of public works. We have called a bit of a problem at the PCC with renters leaving doors open, the AC blasting with these doors open, flies entering the facility. Is there an opportunity when we're replacing the doors and windows to do something to help alleviate that behavior?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm quite positive that there are some options available. It can be explored to look into these type of scenarios, whether it be automatic door closers or programmable time locks that would allow these doors to function during a rental, but yet remain locked and closed with if there's no identified renters or personnel in the building. So again, with that being said, there would be probably an additional cost to any type of electronic lock equipment. But again, with the projected budget amount, I think we're well within budget to easily have that done.
Not to discredit you, but with the current environment of pricing, I'm nervous about council not authorizing you to fix this problem. So can you speak a little bit more to what we're encountering there? My concern isn't around after hours, the door being left open. It's the fact that during a wedding or whatever type of event, they have all the exterior doors open and the AC is just pumping, just gobbling up electricity. So I'm looking to give you a solution for that behavior. And if that means, you know, making sure that council includes it in the resolution today so that it's clear, that's what I'd like to do. So can you speak to that concern, or am I a little bit out to lunch on how often that type of behavior happens?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my interpretation would be for that question is it would not necessarily be the doors that are the problem. It's currently the fact that we may not have personnel in the building during the times of these rentals where they can enforce that, whether it be summer or winter, the doors are properly closed and not left open during an event. So it's not necessarily the doors that are the problem. It's more or less some accountability from the township in ensuring that these doors remain closed at proper times. Again, they cannot be locked completely due to fire and emergency exits, but again, it's in the past we've relied on the renters to, you know, be responsible and keep the doors and windows closed during an event, but we've had past experiences where that has not been the case, and as you indicated, doors are left open, we lose heat or energy along with flies and other nuisances entering the building.
Okay, so what I'm gonna ask council to just maybe weigh in on is then to give you direction to look into. A door that could be wired in, so at home you have those security. Little devices that if somebody breaks into your house, when it opens, it signals the alarm. Well, I'm thinking kind of in reverse that. I'd like you to investigate whether there's a system out there that if it recognizes that the door has been opened for and pre-programmed, say. 5 minutes, then an audible alarm will go off, because if somebody's having an event and all of a sudden the buzzer starts going. "Rah, rah, rah, rah," well, then maybe they'll close the door. And what I'm trying to achieve is get our energy costs down. And just be, and stem that behavior. So maybe I'll just maybe I'll go to lunch, I'll let council weigh in, but that's something I just, maybe without increasing the budget amount, I'd like. Mr. Feller, for you to investigate options to wire in some sort of audible alarm on a timer delay. To whatever amount you feels appropriate, so. Councilor Bailey?
Thank you. I don't want to increase the cost to this project. And I guess without knowing what our energy usage is for that building, I didn't look that up before we came. I don't know if it's an issue. I think putting in new windows and doors would help with our energy consumption and not leaking, hot air. So sure, we can look into something like that, but I wouldn't want the cost to go up because of it.
Councilor Hurst?
Yeah, I think I'd look forward to staff coming back with some recommendations or exploring potential options a bit more. And at that point in time, if the budget needs to be modified from the 140, that's, in my opinion, that would be a good time to have that dialogue. I guess I'd be sensitive enough to put Mr. Fowler on the spot, just to let him work through some scenarios with some suppliers that maybe are. Yeah, just more information, I think is better.
That's good.
Yeah, I tend to agree with maybe a bit more information, because I guess for me, sort of understanding the root cause, like why are the doors being propped open in the first place? Is it that it gets too hot in there? Is the solution to have the doors closed and crank the AC, which in turn is increasing the energy? Like it's just trying to understand, why is that happening in the first place to determine what the appropriate step is. Maybe it's adding operators to the windows and screens so the windows can open and we turn the air conditioning on. I don't know, but I think more information would be helpful.
Yes, I tend to agree that we need more information before we take the leap. The other thing to consider is that we've asked staff to look at how frequently should be renting out these halls, so that would have an impact. And the last point I want to make is the rental cost should factor in these higher energy costs. So if we're not getting full recovery on the rental cost plus whatever, then we should be upping the fees.
I believe that as a staff takeaway, just been brought to my attention when we were in there doing our own council flies, and I just find that some, as our people rent places, they're not as cognizant of cost. So the AC is given her and you leave the door open. So it's but I'm comfortable with Mike taking that as a takeaway. And if he finds a solution, that's great. Or if not, it's just a straight replacement. I'm comfortable with that as well. So. Okay, so that everybody's comfortable with 140, that's right, of the asset management plan for parks. So it's approved. Okay, so that's good for there. Now we'll go back up to the top, Mary's report. And then let me get up there. All right. Where do I want to start? All right, so on page 5. We have plans that have tax levy increases, right, associated with them. Previously, do you think so? Page 3 of the report. So I don't know how you want to go through this. So I don't have any comment on that part of the report. They're fairly small numbers. Well, they're down deeper. Actually, I'm gonna go down lower. Sorry, pardon me. All right, so gravel pit assessment update, I'm gonna give this to you. Originally, when Councilor Baldwin and I met with MPAC at the AMO conference, they indicated they were going to roll out the increases in the roll for this fiscal year, and we should be seeing that money. It's my understanding that that has been delayed, and I'd be surprised if it's early 24. So Mary, I would suggest maybe just in the back of your mind, thinking that that's not gonna come through when you're doing the budget. However, in saying that, the county's been working with the local pits that were appealed to install the new methodology for taxation. And they had settled with all but one operator as of yesterday. They had kind of been a roadblock. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a. So I was called and asked to see if I could get any movement, so I called the operator and I facilitated a meeting with Ken DeHart's team and the operator's team. And what I was told yesterday is they've come to a mutual agreement on that implementation of the methodology for the last remaining pits in the township. So by saying that, you know, maybe we'll see that roll number earlier, but at the end of the day, that's a good thing. They've, you know, because with the new methodology, you couldn't appeal the methodology, but you could appeal how it was implemented on your property. So with them not coming to an agreement, there was potential of more court cases, which is expensive for everybody. So we've now alleviated or avoided that, which is good news. I think there was some concessions on slight concessions on both sides to make that agreement happen. Tatmo is having a meeting. I forget the date, it's coming up, and MPAC has requested to be on the agenda for aggregate appeals update. So I'll have, hopefully, I can't remember right now, if it's before November meeting or after, it's right around there. So hopefully it's before, and I can update council on the 8th, but so that's good news. So any other questions on that gravel pit assessment? Mark and our side? That's hers?
Yeah, just maybe two, and forgive me just because this is my first budget cycle, but if the funds are not anticipated to be received until 2024, is the direction not, there wouldn't be any prorated anticipation of receiving those funds throughout the calendar year, or are we just zeroing it out until it's received, knowing that MPAC has to go through their process and administrative delays and everything? I'm just curious how this impacts it into the future, and how Mary would address this, just for my own clarity.
Mary?
Yeah, so we do budget an amount in our operating budget related to supplementary taxes, which is additional taxation due to these types of matters. We also do budget tax write-offs because we do get some tax write-offs at times as well. So depending, like, our budget is typically approved in February. So if we have an estimate, like a reasonable estimate as to what the 2017 to 2023 amounts are, we could add it as supplemental taxation in our 2024 proposed operating budget, which would result in reducing the tax levy requirement if we are expecting to receive those funds in 2024.
So that's very, 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 very problematic. Because if you get this back payment and you put it in the operating budget and reduce the levy, guess what's gonna happen the next fiscal year? So it's better to assign that supplemental taxes to our asset management plan and just do a dump deposit. Otherwise, we're gonna be chasing our tail in 24. Because I don't know what the projected number is, 200K or so. Do the math on that and tax levy increase. So I would just caution council and staff, take that as a takeaway, that maybe we'll have that conversation right now. The supplemental taxes that we will receive from the aggregate industry, what's your desire as a council? Do you want it to offset levy, as I just described, or offset the asset management plan balance. So basically a deposit into the asset management plan for future capital projects. Go. Am I not making, I'm probably confused.
No, I thought, sorry, am I confusing too? I thought it was going toward public works projects.
Same thing.
So that's asset management.
Mr. Sam?
I think you're referring to the aggregate levy. That's the check that we received from TOARC based on the tons shipped. But no, I do definitely agree with Mayor Sealy. Like it shouldn't be, because it is one time, it shouldn't be an offset to the operating tax levy. It should be something that's contributed. And I think the asset management discretionary reserve definitely makes sense because that's not something that you're gonna, like, it'll help with the balance that we're seeing over the forecast period. But yes, I definitely agree that it shouldn't be, yeah, it shouldn't be an operating, but it would be included in supplemental taxation, but I do agree that the amount would be that it should be contributed to something that's more one time.
So there's an opportunity, yes, I agree, and it could be a something currently assigned to levy increase. But it can't be, it shouldn't be a reoccurring item, so. Say for example, the Arceta study. Right, it's a one-time plan study, it's 70K, that would be a good home for supplemental taxes, Bill. Because we're not gonna do a special economic study annually for the next, in perpetuity, so. There's some options there, but, okay, sorry, Councilor Bailey.
Yeah, no, I would follow Mary's advice, and I guess I would just look to Mary too, to maybe make it even more specific, if there's a discretionary reserve, you know, to put it in, or at least into the asset management.
Well, I think just based on all of our asset replacement requirements and based on what the balance is showing in the forecast period, and some of the recommendations in the roads management plan, I think it makes sense to allocate it to the asset management discretionary reserve upon council direction.
I'm supportive of that. I think that's a good thing for it, and I'll leave it at that.
Councilor Gordon?
Yeah, I definitely agree with it going to capital. I'm curious, though, it would be nice to have it help reduce the levy. I'm not sure if, so right now, the way this is being proposed is there's a contribution to the asset management discretionary reserve through levy of $949,000. So if we're gonna allocate this assessment to the asset management, can we then reduce the amount we're contributing through levy?
Can I chime in first? So the 900,000 isn't new levy, that's just the levy that we always, there's a bit of maybe confusion. So the question you need to know, or have to know the answer to, is how much of that 937 is new levy, because then you'd be able to offset it. But what I would say, Councilor Goyda, is I would focus the attention on levy, that's a one-time cost in the report. So again, that 70,000, that would be a great home, because if we reduce the contribution to the asset management plan, it's kind of the same thing. Now we're not funding our capital projects for, you know, the long term. But if you can find levy projects that are one-offs, the Arceta, I don't know, even if they were a 5-year thing, you know, maybe even the benefits review or those types of things that we can absorb a little easier on a cyclical scale, then that's a good home for it. But I would be worried to reduce the asset management levy for similar concerns around, we just have to make it up.
Yeah,
in
I
future
guess
years.
it at the end of the day, I guess I'm not partial to where it offsets, as long as it's going to capital and it is being used to help reduce the levy in some shape or form.
Fair enough. Councilor Spills?
No, I agree, it should go to capital. That was my big concern too, when I read it's going to be operating. And I agree there should be offsetting the one-timers, such as the regional significant study, the compensation review, anything to pick out from here. I think we should use that, expend that, all these one times to bring the overall levy down to virtually a small number, and then the rest goes into the asset management plan.
So, Mr. San. I don't know, are you capturing that in the resolution
am.
or?
Yeah, I have it noted, but I think it needs to be maybe a little bit more specific than I have it noted. The council directs staff to allocate the additional taxation from 2017 to 2023 related to the gravel pit appeals to the asset management discretionary reserve when received.
Well, and so a component is that to, so.
I know, should be paying off the one-offs.
Yeah, I know, and I just was, my mouth was going faster than my brain, so I was just. So, the staff be directed to utilize the supplemental tax received from the agri industry to offset one-time tax levy increases for the 2024 budget. So, and the one example is, I have another option for the Arcita. I think it's gonna make you guys fall out of your chairs, but I have an option. But that's one, the Arcita. And the staff benefits. So that's 100K, almost 95. And Mary, what's the supplemental? What were the numbers you were hearing from the aggregate industry? Supplemental taxes, 200K?
I would say that's probably reasonable, but yeah.
So we just gobbled half of what we're gonna throw into the asset management plan just for council's information. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because it's gonna bring the levy down. I'll go this
Okay,
way.
we'll see the final number.
Yeah, we'll see the final numbers, but because I have this other idea for the Arcita. Which, so then that would put more money into capital and still help the levy. So stand by. Clear as mud?
The question I had for Mary was, what is the ballpark of the assessment? So around 200.
I think it's
is
around
what we
200,
thought?
yeah.
Okay. I
That's
don't
just,
know.
that's an estimate, yeah, but we'll get a more refined figure, hopefully in early 2024.
And Mary, it's not 200,000 each year. 200,000 captures 17 to 23. Then we will see a general increase going forward.
Okay.
So I don't know what, I forget what that number is. I think there's a report somewhere that gives an estimation of that as well. Okay, so what do you have?
Council directs staff to allocate the additional taxation from 2017 to 2023 related to the gravel pit appeals to the asset management discretionary reserve when received to fund one-time capital tax levy increases to the 2024 budget, such as the regionally significant economic development study area and or the compensation and benefits review.
So. My brain goes so many different directions. Shall we put in there that those. Especially the Arcita. It doesn't go forward until we receive the supplemental taxes? Does that matter, Mary? Does it need to have that wording in there, or is it just known that if the supplemental taxes get delayed, so does the study?
Be nice if it was in there because basically, if that's council's direction.
What I'm worried about is that something happens, MPAC doesn't update the roll. We don't receive the money, then we're scrambling to find 70K because staff have been directed to do the study right away. So just putting a little caveat in there that the study go forward once the supplemental taxes are received. That work? Or report back, Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, provided there's flexibility in that regard, I think that makes sense to me.
Councilor
I think
Hurst?
that's where my question is going. Is there maybe a question of staff? Is there any negative repercussions of delaying this study for months? They come to mind. Maybe that's a hard question to answer.
I could probably answer that.
But
Do you have something?
if there's no significant downside of delaying it a number of months, then sure, that could be my take.
Impact county funding.
No.
So through Mr. Chair, it's just related to, the economic development study area. We did hear, from the county when they presented to council that there is some urgency related to that study, and that comes back to the changes that we're seeing, in policy at the provincial level and the potential impacts to the township specifically related to the Greenbelt plan and lands being, there isn't an opportunity when those lands have been put into the Greenbelt. And so this study really did earmark that portion of the township through a comprehensive study advising the province that these are lands that the township is looking to develop. So just with the sort of the climate with the province making those changes very rapidly, I think that would be the one hesitation from staff, that if this study is deferred, we just don't want to miss that opportunity to sort of designate or do that study in the hopes of designating those lands for the future.
So,
That's what I was gonna say, but not as eloquently.
But leave us.
So,
Commit to it.
you could put in there, that staff report back at by, say, budget's approved February, correct, Ms. Hassan,
Yes,
typically?
yes,
The April council meeting, if the supplemental taxes have not been received. Thus, council can make a determination whether they want to approve the study going forward, or Sheldon definitely contact the county, those types of things, right? Kind of. I mean, so basically what it's saying is you're going forward.
Right.
But if all of a sudden we're not receiving the money, budget gets approved that February. So essentially what we're saying is wait a month. Budget approved February, wait for March for the supplemental taxes to come in. If they don't come in by the April meeting, come to us and say, still haven't heard on the supplemental taxes, what do you want us to do? You want to go forward or not? Does that work?
So through Mr. Chair, I'd like to understand a little bit more about how our request for proposal is going to work. I know we were previously directed to get started on that for the new year, to be able to have something in place. So delaying till, I guess I'm just unsure about how delaying till April would impact that process. And does it sort of, we can proceed with bringing a scope of work to council and all of that, but I'm not sure if we're not firmed up on whether we're going ahead, if we want to put an RFP out for it.
Okay, so Mrs. Sand, if this is approved as proposed, so use the supplemental taxes. How is it funded if, you need this study to go forward in January 1st, but supplemental taxes don't come in until, say, October? How does the municipality fund that gap?
so taxes in general come in like over 4 installments, so we have cash flow to fund the gap, but I guess the concern would be if we don't receive those supplemental taxes at all in 2024 and it delays past 2024, that's where I would be concerned.
Okay, so. I don't know, I guess let's talk about that, I guess, because I would be comfortable going forward, and it's a bit of a risk.
So through you, Mr. Chair, maybe a suggestion would be to proceed with the scope of work, bring that to council as planned within the next few weeks. I think we're looking at the November 29th meeting. We are refining the budget through a review of the capital projects this week with our engineer. And so perhaps it may be prudent to just pause this decision until we know better what the budget is looking like in the next couple of meetings. And then make a decision on this. The compensation review, I think, is fair to sort of hinge on some of that funding, but given the urgency around the other study, it may just be better to defer the decision today and just wait till we have more information.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I think we can go forward. And I'll say why. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna get that money. Right? If the decision's been made, the methodology's been determined, so I guess what I would think is that staff would just have to utilize, and I recognize that the director doesn't want us utilizing the asset management plan for funding things, but if this is approved and we're waiting on this money and this is an important project, we could find money in some reserve somewhere and then just make sure we document it well, so when that supplemental tax comes in, because it's gonna come, it just gets replaced. What are your thoughts on that?
So through Mr. Chair, I would like to hear our Director of Finance's thoughts, but I do know that, she had commented that this is a reiterative process, so there is opportunity in the next couple of meetings to make decisions if we're unsure today. That would be my comment, but I'm not sure if our director has a comment more specifically to answer your question.
Just let Mrs. Sang go on.
So. I'm good with whatever, like, I think Ms. Hoyt Fox, did explain it well. It is a reiterative process, so if we wanna wait on, taking that risk at this time, like we can, until we have more information about when we will be, receiving the gravel pit appeal funding, because if we're not gonna be receiving it in 2024, we shouldn't be budgeting for obtaining that, those additional funds in 2024.
That's cool.
Yes, my thought process is, let's, take the gravel road improvement, reduce it by 70,000, and then use that money to top up the, gravel road reserve. Because that's a contribution we do anyway, every year.
That was my other.
Yeah, so I thought we'd do that as well. That way, the 70K for the study is free and clear. When we get the money from this, reevaluation, we just put it back into the gravel road improvement. This is gonna sit in our reserve anyway, whether you put in the 70K now or, 5 months from now, it's still gonna be there.
I agree. So Councilor Spillis move that we utilize the gravel road discretionary reserve to fund the special economic study area study plan. And that when the supplemental taxes money is received by the township, that is replaced into the gravel road discretionary reserve. This has nothing to do with the increase to the gravel roads discretionary reserve. That's a separate topic. So that's moved by you, seconder. Councilor Hurst, comments? Councilor Bailey.
I'm more of a, I like that idea. I just wanted some clarification for Mary on, like I see on page 4 of the report, it says the county has budgeted 120 for phase 1. And I'm confused because up above it says the county's only paying
Not paying for the residential part.
25, yeah, no, I know, this is the phase 1, the employment part of it. So, Mary, can you just clarify how much contribution the county is giving toward phase 1 of the study?
I believe that 50% has been confirmed. But another reason why doing the RFP in accordance with the previous council direction is so that we get a more accurate cost estimate of how much this whole project is going to cost. Because right now it's just an estimate of the 120K from the county and then 100K from the township.
So right now is the county committed to 120K?
Courtney, Ms. Hoyt Fox, can you just confirm that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, they have committed to 120K, again, just not including any portion of the residential study review. Now, again, whether that's going to be a 50-50 split or a 60-40 split, I think will be determined on the overall cost of the study.
Okay, so does that help answer your question?
You know, so where does the 70 come in? So,
The study's gonna be 190 or 200,000 to do in total.
right, okay, so it's 120, well, whatever, 130, is that what I've calculated as the cost, but then the 70 is on top of that. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so, yes, so the township approved 30,000 in 2022. And then an additional 70,000 is being proposed for 2024. So altogether with the county's funding, it's currently estimated at 220,000 total cost for phase 1. But the RFP process will be able to refine that cost estimate.
Well, and I'd be cautious to say there's 220 available because the county is giving a percentage that they'd be willing to fund. So that doesn't mean we get to utilize their extra 20K they've allotted. We'd have to match that. So right now if we approve this, there's 200,000 approved. The RFP will say how much we need. And if there's more, they already have 20 in. If say it comes back, we need another 40 grand. Well, they're in a spot, they already have their 20. We have to find our 20. But also it could come out of the RFP that maybe the county does a 60-40 or a 66-40. So there's a few moving parts, but at the end of the day, we're trying to match their contribution as what is the attempt here.
So sorry, that was a diversion, but getting back to Councilor Wilson's, I like the suggestion.
Okay.
I'm supportive. I think, summarizing my thoughts here is let's just get on with the project. And I think, Councilor Spoulos came up with a novel approach to fund it in the near term until the, aggregate funds are received, hopefully sooner than later, but I wouldn't want to see it delayed in perpetuity until that happens. I think let's get on with it. Here's a viable solution.
Councilor Goyda?
Yeah, agreed. Good suggestion.
Through Mr. Chair, can I just ask for a clarification? If the compensation and benefits, if we don't receive the additional taxation, is council's intention to defer the compensation and benefits review to 2025? Or
Not the compensation benefit review we were gonna discuss after we found out we had a more up to date on the asset management plan, so that's why we deferred that one.
okay, so
So we're just talking about the study right now in the gravel roads.
Okay. I had it initially included in the first portion, but I will delete it from this.
And can you read? what you-
Yes, I can. The council directs staff to allocate the additional taxation for 2017 to 2023 related to the gravel pit appeals to the asset management discretionary reserve when received to fund one-time capital tax levy increases such as the regionally significant economic development study area. And whereas council directs staff that in the event the additional taxation is not received in 2024, that council fund the 70K required for the regionally economic development study area through reallocating 70K from the 2024 contribution to the gravel roads discretionary reserve.
Sorry, that's not correct.
Okay.
So, we're not allotting the supplemental taxes to the asset management plan.
Okay,
What we're doing is, well, we are, but so what we're doing is we're taking 70K from the gravel roads discretionary reserve,
Mhm.
pay for the study. When the supplemental taxes are received, that money is reimbursed to gravel roads discretionary reserve, and the remainder may go to the asset management plan.
if you just give me one moment to reword.
Is that council's understanding?
Just before you reword it, but we're also, in addition to the RCEDA and the gravel roads, are we still not also looking, even though we're not having the discussion about the benefits, salary and benefits review, it could also
Mhm.
fund those at some other one-time,
Well, the supplemental, are you talking about, or are
Yeah.
you talking, yes,
yes.
we're not happy.
And then whatever is left over after all of this, that's what gets put into the asset.
Yes, yes,
So leave the wording in around the compensation and benefits review, because I've said such as these two types of studies, but then further specified that,
my concern was the way it was worded at the beginning.
okay,
I didn't think it was clear that it's not going to, all going to the AMP.
Okay.
That it's, all I'm worried about is that the 70K coming out of the gravel road discretionary reserve is repaid from the supplemental taxes. However that's clear to everyone, that's all I care about.
okay.
Because I agree with you, we don't have any capital projects planned for that reserve, so it's just sitting there, we can utilize it just as long as it gets paid back. And that was my idea, I wanted to bring up these. Stole it. That's good though.
So just to ensure that the next capital budget presented to council is accurate. I will still estimate that we are gonna receive those supplemental taxes in 2024. And they will be included in the supplemental taxation account as part of our operating budget, but I do understand that those funds are to fund one-time projects like the regionally significant economic development study phase 1 or the compensation study. But for now, like, we're not going to change any of our contributions to discretionary reserve, including the proposed contribution to the asset management discretionary reserve and the gravel roads improvement discretionary reserve. What we're going to do is we're going to assume that we're going to get those supplemental taxes in 2024, and we'll incorporate a reasonable amount in our 2024 operating budget. But if we do not receive those funds in 2024, we'll utilize the gravel roads improvement discretionary reserve and then repay that reserve in the future once we do receive the funds.
Correct, yep. The only thing I would, yeah, as long as it's understood that if it's received in 25, then the money still goes. As long as it's not pigeonholed that if we only receive in 24, that it goes back. It's whenever it comes, whether it's 25, 26, who knows, right?
Okay.
I think I have it. So I've added, because it may or may not be required to utilize funds from the gravel road improvement reserve. So what I've added to what I've read previously was, and that any funds being utilized from the gravel road improvement discretionary reserve to fund one-time capital levy projects, if required, be paid back to the gravel road improvement discretionary reserve from the additional taxation in the asset management discretionary reserve.
Call it supplemental taxation because then the terminology is consistent, please.
Regardless of when it comes in.
Yeah. Sorry, I just noticed.
I think if you're okay, I can read it all over again, or if
Sure,
that,
I'm sorry.
yeah, that's okay.
It's just better and there's no confusion. Sorry, folks.
Okay, the council directs staff to allocate supplemental taxation from 2017 to 2023 related to the gravel pit appeals to the asset management discretionary reserve when received to fund one-time capital tax levy increases to the 2024 budget, such as the regionally significant economic development study area and or the compensation benefits review. And whereas council directs staff that in the event the supplemental taxation is not received in 2024, that council fund the 70K required for the regionally economic development study area through reallocating 70K from the 2024 contribution to the gravel road improvement discretionary reserve, and that any funds utilized from the gravel road improvement discretionary reserve to fund these one-time capital levy projects, if required, be paid back from the supplemental taxation in the asset management discretionary reserve. Great.
Nailed it. All right, you've heard the recommendation. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Spillis, second by Councillor Bailey. Mrs. Sand, any concerns with what you heard there at the end?
No, because I think we discussed what I'm gonna do with the next version of the budget, and you guys confirmed that that's accurate. So yeah, it makes sense. Thank you very much.
Councillor Bailey?
No, that's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All in favor? It's carried. All right, so page 6 of the agenda 4 of the mayor's report. Good. I think we dealt with that. We just did the 70K. And I had a note there, so we're good. Okay, sorry.
Can we circle back to page 5?
Sure.
But staff are asking, suggesting that 50K be contributed to the administration studies reserve.
Why am I not seeing?
Right above the title of a gravel pit assessment, there's a paragraph there.
Oh. Yes, we'll create, so you go first, go ahead, you gotta consider they wanna create a special reserve for studies, I actually had a note about that later, and I'll ask my questions, you didn't see me.
Well, I'm gonna suggest, we do so, and the way I'm gonna suggest we do it is. The truck has, is proposed to be paid from levy. The fact that the truck is required by parks. I'm gonna suggest that the truck be paid for out of the parkland dedicated reserve, which can be. So that way, that frees up 50,000 out of that levy, and we can allocate 50K to studies in the future. I think the fact that these studies are not covered in the future going forward, I think we gotta have a pot of money to draw on when the issue comes around.
Move by Councilor Spillis, Councilor Gordon seconds that, all right, Councilor Bailey.
I just had a question. I know we did discuss this a bit last year's budget time about, and how difficult it could be, but have we been keeping track about the impacts of Bill 23? Kind of throughout this last year, do we know what costs, have kind of built up because of it?
So that is
Sam?
yes, so that is something that we can, like if the province does actually allow this to be like fully cost recoverable as they've indicated, it is something that we can determine what the impact is to the township, just as it relates to no longer being able to fund administrative studies. Because we'll be able to see what was in our 2019 development charges study and what the cost of these studies are, and report to the province in this manner. And also just Bill 23 related to the heritage properties. It'd be something that we could work with our DC consultant and the clerk's area, but it would be something that we could find just looking at the general ledger detail of some of the costs that we've incurred. I think the most significant one is the heritage implications, but yeah, that could be something that we would be able to report to the province just based on how our financial system works.
Thanks. Can I say something real quick? I wrote at the top of my page, pen a letter to the government on impacts of the DC change. So I think that's a great approach that we keep track of this, and then I didn't consider the heritage impacts, but we keep track of that, and we pen a letter to our representatives at the province and show them a percent increase, because they might just look at it and say, oh, it's only tens of thousands of dollars or $100,000, that's not a big deal. But when you equate it to a household tax increase versus putting it onto DCs, that hits home. So I'm glad you brought that up, Councilor Bailey, because I'm supportive of that. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add that.
No, that's okay. So then my question was kind of, by saying just studies, are we limiting, like, should the discretionary reserve be called something different that would incorporate, more of the impacts of Bill 23?
I think that's a separate issue, and we can address that separately. I think what I've heard from council in the past is we have a lot of items in our capital budget and forecast that are studies or plans or inspections or whatnot, and they are tax levy impacts. And I think having a more general discretionary reserve would assist with stabilizing that tax levy impact year over year, because these studies are needing to be updated at different times throughout the forecast period. But yeah, I think the Bill 23 impacts is a separate issue, and that can be reported on separately, just based on the projects that we noted in our 2019 development charges study and what's now being tax levy impact. It would be a collaborative effort between the township, the DC consultant that we have, and the clerk's area, just as it relates to the heritage impacts.
Okay, thanks. And then I guess my other question was, the recommended amount is 50,000. And I'm just wondering where that came from. I mean, I'm looking at in the report at all the different previously funded amounts, and it totaled more than 50,000. But I wasn't sure what time frame that was within.
So a good question did come from council, after the agenda was live. And I'm just gonna open up that question, I'm sorry.
Aren't they all good questions?
Apparently what years.
Of course, they're all great questions.
Oh, okay.
But I think it just helped with, doing a better analysis on what the amount should be. And I think it was just basically, the question was whether the amount should be, the same amount over like 10 years. And so I was able to look at our budget model and see which projects were funded by tax levy over the forecast period that relate to studies, plans, inspections, etc. And that amount totaled about 658,000. So if you divide that by 10, so that's either tax levy funded or previously DC funded, because there are certain grant applications that we do make that we can. So those types of studies have been, if there's a grant in place, that grant's been itemized separately, or if we can utilize the building surplus reserve because it is a more corporate study, then that's been allocated appropriately. But basically, I just looked at our budget model and I looked at all the studies, plans, and inspections and what amount of those items are tax levy funded or previously DC funded. And the total is about 658,000. So I think it may be a good idea to just make the reserve more general in nature to fund these types of projects in order to spread out the contribution to the reserve over the 10-year period, in order to limit the tax levy impact. So 658,000 divided by 10 years is about 66,000 per year. So I do feel comfortable with the 50,000 amount that's recommended in the report.
Great, thank you very much, great explanation.
Thanks.
Councilor Hurst?
Yeah, that was very helpful from my standpoint, because I think the one question I had is 50 the right amount, and then how does that, you know, on an annual basis, long term, how do we accomplish getting away from like ebb and flows of tax implications? And I think this is I'm very supportive of this strategy, so I'll leave it at that.
Councilor Goyda?
Yeah, thanks, Mary, for the really good explanation on that. That was very helpful for me as well. I just want to ask, so by establishing this reserve, is the intent that it would then work similar to the kind of like the asset management reserve, where we would do a tax levy contribution to that reserve every year, and then all of those studies would be funded from that reserve as opposed to these individual line items, similar to the way the asset management currently functions?
Yes, Councillor Guida, and I really love the way that the asset management reserve functions, and it's really helped us year over year with our capital tax levy impact and just understanding what the balance in that reserve should be over the forecast period based on all the various projects that we have. So that is, like, I am hopeful that that's how this reserve will work moving forward in the future.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, the flip side of that was, taking the costing for the truck out of the park plant. So everybody's on side with that.
Yeah, I'm supportive of it, but I have a question for the treasurer. So maybe last year it didn't have much, but you know, if we have a levy increase for a study of say $50,000 in a specific year, then the next year we don't have that study. Where did that levy money from the previous year end up in the subsequent year? So does that make sense? Does it just go to the asset management plan? So what I'm getting at, this year might be fine as long as the direction going forward is not to have individual line items. Starting next budget cycle, we'll use this reserve, because what's going to happen this year is we're going to, well, we've taken it from the gravel roads, but from that aside, if the 70K for the RCEDA were a levy increase, you'd have 70K for the levy increase for the RCEDA. You're contributing 50K to a new reserve. You're actually funding it 120. But where would that 70 go in perpetuity? It kind of gets gobbled up by the asset management plan. So these levy increases historically for plans and certain things, they would just be absorbed by the asset management plan contribution. Is that what would happen for the following budget cycles?
Yes, we would not decrease our capital tax levy. We want to continue
so-
to We want to continue to increase it in order to fund our infrastructure deficit.
So that was one of my comments I had later in the report is, if we were doing levy increases for plans. Then that money, I think, and that's where we're going with this, should be assigned to a plan reserve or whatever, but. There's too much going on, but we don't really have any other plans in the budget that have levy impacts of significance. Because we dealt with 70 from our CETA with the gravel roads, right? So the direction going forward for 24 and beyond. Is that plans will be funded through this new reserve. What if 50K is not enough next year for the plans that you, or not you, the municipality requires?
We can phase in an increase.
Or it would, yeah, that'd be another levy increase or something along those, but
I
the
think,
intent is,
sorry, go ahead.
the intent is to move away from, I like this, moving away from these one-time hits for plans and basically save up for them. So that may not necessarily be complete as of 24, but you know, in the next 2 or 3 budget cycles, that should be complete, correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I'm good. So we moved it. Any further questions before I call the vote? Actually, you're good.
I can read it, or if you guys are happy.
I think they already moved and seconded it, right?
Yes.
No, there's
Um,
another one.
I have Counselor Spools moving, Counselor Goyda seconding, but we've added just a little bit to it. If
Sure,
you'd like.
go for it.
Whereas staff have identified that a new discretionary reserve pertaining to administration studies be considered for the purpose of funding previously eligible studies that are no longer eligible to be DC funded due to Bill 23, that council directs staff to establish the new reserve and contribute 50K as outlined in the report through the 2024 budget. And that council directs staff to analyze the additional costs to the township associated with the impacts of Bill 23 and report back to council in order to forward this information and council's concerns to the province.
And we had a mover and a seconder.
Hang on a second, I also said that we decrease the truck budget. Instead of being levy funded, be funded out of the pipeline reserve.
Yeah, and that it be a parks pickup truck, to be funded
Absolutely.
by the parkland dedication restricted reserve. And then Ms. Hoyt Fox, I just had one other item. I just want it, just to be clear, for the newly established discretionary reserve, that it fund administrative studies that were previously DC funded, as well as plans and inspections, etc., that were previously tax levy funded.
Well, what are you gonna do if you need, plan needs to be funded, you don't have enough money in the reserve, you're gonna need to fund it through the tax levy. So right
Yeah.
now, you just wanna capture the DC component ones. Do you not, and not exclude the tax levy part?
I just, because this newly established reserve is gonna be in our budget development and control policy, I just want it to be clear that it would fund both items. Obviously, if there's a deficit in the reserve, we would utilize tax levy funding instead,
Okay,
until we build up the reserve. But if there's a better way to word that in the council resolution.
I'm good, just wanna.
Okay, where staff have identified that a new discretionary reserve pertaining to administration studies be considered for the purpose of funding previously eligible studies that are no longer eligible to be DC funded and plans and inspections that were previously funded through the tax levy due to Bill 23. The council directs staff to establish a new reserve and contribute 50K as outlined in the report through the 2024 budget process. And that council directs staff to analyze the additional costs to the township associated with the impacts of Bill 23 and report back to council in order to forward this information and council's concerns to the province. And whereas the Parks Department requires a new pickup truck as identified through the budget process, that the Parks pickup truck be funded through the Parkland Reserve.
All right, made the move for that, right? In a second, or any further comments? No, all in favor? It's carried. All right. So downtown revitalization, does this have budget impact? Okay, got a budget for base on preliminary landscape.
We haven't incorporated in the budget at this time. We recommended that we report back to council after we look into you know, the collaborative effort that we can do with the County of Wellington, as well as looking at the Morrison Streetscape Bypass project that was approved by previous councils.
Anybody have any change from that? No? All right, the asset management plan policy, you don't have a number associated with that, you're gonna report back, but since it's for the asset management plan, would you be able to fund that through the asset management plan versus a levy increase when you come back?
Yeah. Can we just add that to a council resolution so that I can ensure that that's what happens?
Is everybody comfortable? Councilor Bailey?
Question about it.
Shoot.
Just a question, Mary, you have, based on a recent quote, the work can cost up to 67K of consulting costs. Is there a way to be reducing any of the consulting costs? I feel like one of the answers to the questions involved a student, or can we be using staff resources to help reduce that?
Yeah, so I will be working on that report to council, and you are correct, Councilor Bailey. There was an answer provided as part of the questions and answers, and one of the options is looking into hiring a university co-op student and seeing whether they can assist with both the asset management plan and policy updates, as well as our 2 significant system implementations, just working collaboratively with myself and the deputy treasurer that we're in the process of recruiting for.
And that's to help get the new system implemented as well?
It would be, I think it would be 3 key projects, which I'm hoping that that's enough resources to assist with these significant items. It would be for the asset management plan and policy update that's required in accordance with Bill or Ontario Regulation 588-17, as well as the budget and asset management system implementations. What was noted in the report was a quick quote that we got from a consultant regarding the cost for them to just update our asset management plan and policy. So we are looking at other alternatives, and definitely this could be something that could be funded by the asset management discretionary reserve.
Okay, great, thanks.
Can I ask you, what do they review in our asset management plan? I don't really need somebody to come here and tell me we have 15 picnic tables and 400 chairs and these kinds of things. So are you able to narrow the review so that we can save some costs and still meet the requirement from the province to have this plan updated?
Yeah, that's the goal, is to
Okay,
narrow
good.
it, because we have a comprehensive asset management plan and asset registry from 2019. It just needs to all be updated and put into the system, which requires significant time and to do it right.
Okay, Councilor Hurst?
No question. That's good.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You need me 1 second.
I don't know, do we?
Yeah, I have a resolution.
Councilor Bailey moves it, Councilor Hurst seconds it. Do you want to read the resolution?
The council directs staff to incorporate 57K into the 2024 capital budget related to asset management plan and policy updates as outlined in the report.
Sorry, I mover seconder already. Comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. All right, so Recreation Park Master Plan, I believe, is the next item. Mrs. Sand, can that not be funded through the Parkland Dedication Reserve?
No, studies are not able to be funded by. Yeah,
So here's another example of if this goes in on the levy this year, then next year it should be put into the new discretionary reserve for plans and not go into just the general asset management plan, in my opinion. So I'd like council to discuss that. I confuse you.
I
Councilor Bailey?
missed the beginning of what you said.
So this is a levy increase for a plan.
Yeah.
And if we take no action, this 25K, this levy increase will just be in the capital budget as part of a asset management plan contribution. Whereas if council gives direction, this 25K levy increase could be to fund the discretionary reserve we just created for plans going forward, so.
Yeah.
I think that's a wise decision, at least.
Yeah.
You know, we were at a 66K over 10 years, we put 50. If you say at least 15 of this, there's your 65K. Anyway, so comments on that, Councillor Bailey,
I agree with that. I think that seems appropriate.
which part, sorry,
Putting it toward the administrative. What do you call it? Administrative studies reserve. If it doesn't get used, that's what you're suggesting?
I believe it's gonna get used, because you're gonna do the plan, are you not? Is the Parks Master Plan to go? Or is
Well,
this
this
just a-
was based on council direction at the September 6th meeting, but if I think the direction that came out of that meeting was that the project be started in 2024. And so that's why we've incorporated 25,000 in 2024 and 25,000 in 2025 for this project. But if council does want this project to be deferred to 2025 and 2026, then this would result in a less tax levy impact that could be contributed to the newly established reserve that we've discussed today.
Those two things don't go hand in hand. Can't add more money to the reserve and not impact the tax levy. Either way, it's gotta go up.
Yeah.
So here's what council needs to be comfortable with. That September 6th meeting, we were talking about other upgrades to some of our parks. And we've done Morum, we are almost done PCC, so there was some discussion around Meadows. This is an opportunity to reduce the impact on the tax levy. And I have a note here, we can work off an outdated parks plan until 25 or 26. So if you wanna save half a point levy increase on the capital budget, it just means that you may need to make some decisions on some park upgrades potentially ahead of a Parks Master Plan. So I guess what you have to weigh is levy versus making some decisions around some parks as a group with an older parks plan that may not speak specifically to those projects. So that's the discussion. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I think we need to move ahead with the plan. We've had many different discussions that all seem to end in, well, it would be great to have a new updated plan. We've heard from the soccer, we've heard from rec committee, we've heard from baseball. So there's all different people that have, you know, that will be impacted by updating this plan. I did have a question about, we already have a plan that just sort of needs updating, needs tweaking. Is there a difference between a new plan and updating a plan in terms of cost? Does it have to be 25K?
I think that's the starting point. Staff, who wants to?
So through Mr. Chair, I think part of the first process is we want to take a look back at the plan that was established in 2015. We want to look at and to make sure everything that was identified in that plan actually has been accomplished or has been considered. And we want to just do that review as a starting point. And then from there, I think we'll have a better idea if it requires more of like an update, or are we looking at a brand new sort of 10-year or whatever many year plan. So I think we're not sure at this point without doing that review. I think that'd be the first step.
From my perspective, I'd like to go ahead with this plan.
Councillors?
Yeah, I think I share that sentiment. I think 2015 is a long time ago when it comes to rec and parks, and this community's evolved a lot in that period of time, so I think it's vital to do it. There's maybe some common ground. I see this as a phase 1, phase 2 approach, as Courtney noted. Phase 1 is the scoping. Phase 2 is actually getting it done. So if we were looking for some budget flexibility, I could perceive a scoping project be completed in 24 and the full report being completed in 25, and presumably the budget impacts would be larger in 25, which could then in theory get captured in the administrative prior discussion that we had. But again, this is very like theoretical from my standpoint. I think that the message I would try to convey is I think it needs to happen. Moving forward, I guess I would, honestly, I would look for direction from the Park and Recs Committee as to the sense of urgency. I think personally, I think it's important that we move forward and not delay it, but obviously Councilor Goyda may have a different, a more evolved opinion than mine. I'll stop there.
Councilor Goyda?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for suggesting that it should go to the rec committee. I don't disagree with that. I have a couple of thoughts on this. I think updating the Parks Master Plan is important, as Councillor Bailey said, to many groups in this community. And I think it's important that we update it sooner rather than later. Having said that, though, we have had a lot of parks upgrades over, especially this past year, some of which haven't even completed construction. And I think once those projects are up and running and operating, it will potentially change some of the needs and wants of those groups in our community. And I think that in order for the Parks Master Plan to be really good and solid, it needs to have a lot of meaningful engagement from our community. And not having had the opportunity to use those new parks and facilities to their full potential, we don't know what we don't know yet, because, you know, soccer hasn't had a chance to use the soccer field, and I guess baseball has had an opportunity to use the lights, but so I'm on the fence. I'm the chair of the rec committee, and, you know, I'm a big advocate for recreation in the community, but I want it to also be done as effectively as possible. So I'm somewhat on the fence as to whether I think we should do it in 2024 and 25, or whether we should do it in 25 and 26. So I don't disagree with the idea of consulting with the rec committee on that. On the flip side of that, I think if we did decide to do it in 2024, could that not be one of those one-time things that gets incorporated by that gravel road,
Supplemental taxes.
yes, the terminology. Then the second year, the remaining, the sort of the phase 2, 25,000 gets funded from that reserve that we've now established. So it therefore ends up still not being a tax levy impact, but we're getting it done sooner. So I'm talking through my thoughts out loud and maybe not making much sense.
I don't know if that makes sense. Okay. Is there, well, I think most of that was statements. I'm gonna go to Councillor Spoulis and then I'll maybe circle back. Councillor Spoulis.
Yes, so is a total cost of this 25K or 50K?
So through you, Mr. Chair, and I believe the way that our director has it outlined in the report is it's 25K in 2024 and 25K in 2025. So the total amount is 50,000, but through that sort of phased approach.
So I sort of agree with Councilor Hurst, Councilor Goyda, that we have to understand the impact of what we have there gives us first before we deep and do that. So I'm okay putting a nominal amount next year to do this assessment, to do a needs analysis type of thing, and then move forward from there. I really don't want us to be in a position that, oh, we have all these facilities, let's do another master plan, and without knowing the impact. I think knowing the impact is very important of what we just finished building. So I would suggest a nominal amount, perhaps 5K, 10K, something like that.
Okay, so I'm on board. I think that adding a bit of levy that will then transfer to the new discretionary reserve is a good idea to get closer to that 66. I also agree that I feel we need a year under our belt of the use of those facilities. Mr. Fowler, the construction process, progress on the facilities Still expecting completion for spring, and do you have an update on the soccer field resodding or whatever it's called? Is that soccer field gonna be utilized next year, the new one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are a couple projects that I've just been informed this week that will run into spring of 2024 before completion. As well as the rear soccer field. Unfortunately, I don't have a clear answer at this time to give whether it'll be completed in this year or not. The weather is turning quickly, and I really haven't gotten a firm answer on the commitment for the rear soccer field for this year yet.
So to build on that, if the new topsoil or whatever it is, sod, whatever is put down there, if that work doesn't happen until spring, what's the likelihood of that field being used in 24 if the improvements are not done until spring of 24?
From what I've been told is that the expectation could be if construction was to say commence in May, mid-July, sports could be played on that field.
Okay, I would, to be reserved, I would just anticipate no use on that field next year. Unfortunately, we've just had so many curveballs thrown at us that, anyways. The other point is I don't believe that we need to ask the rec committee if we should do a master plan. I think it's important that the rec committee has input on the master plan. We wouldn't go to Public Works and say, hey, Public Works guys, do you, or I don't know, another committee. So I think it's our role to decide when we do the master plan and make sure there's engagement with the committee. So that's just my comment on that. I like your idea of splitting it up. So, is 5K enough? Should it be 10?
So through Mr. Chair, if this is a staff review that's taking place in 2024,
I don't know. Is it-
I would assume it's basically a review of the, what we have, what we're missing. And, start the process of, getting, input from the community.
So I'll interject real quick. So what I would suggest is a 10K tax levy increase. Mrs. Hetzan, do you have a running tally of the capital levy increase that we've in total, what we've approved so far?
So, the report,
5%. 5%, like, are we up 2% so far, 3% on the capital budget? Do you have any idea where we're at yet?
like from the 1.5 million that was presented to council in this report?
Yes. No, inclusive of the one, yes, in total, yes.
That's what we've taken out.
Any percent numbers, so with the
Yeah.
1.5, what percent did that equate to? Was it in there? I didn't see it.
It's
can do-
about it's about 3.78.
It was 3.78, and so we removed what does 78,000 equate to, 70K equate to in percentage reduction?
And 55.
55,
No, we added back 50, so we have 5 then, now 5.
so we're at 20.
We've taken out the compensation review
Paused it,
tentatively.
paused it, yeah. Tentatively.
We've taken out possibly the 10,000 asset management plan to be funded. Sorry, asset management
We added 50, so we're at
policy.
20.
I wouldn't recommend that, like, because I think some of the recommendations that came out was it related to the estimate of 200,000 for the gravel pit appeals from 2017 to 2023.
What I'm trying to do is decide if we need to have a conversation about a 10,000 levy increase, because we're already at 3.78 just on the capital side of things. So I'm trying to get a baseline of where we are to then determine if I need to focus on this or I can move on. So we've removed 70, we added 50, so we got a 20 removal, 20,000 K, which isn't 0.5%, but it's, let's just
No,
call it.
no, we only added 5. Or we saved 5, so we saved the 70, we saved 5K from the truck, plus we added the 50 in for the
So the truck and something's a wash with that 50K.
The admin study reserve.
5K difference.
There's a 5K difference,
Yeah.
I'm getting lost.
The
So-
55 and the mid study was 50.
Okay, so we have 5K that's staying in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No, 5K that's
Coming out.
coming up.
coming out, which is,
And,
It's an 8
Mr. Mayor, I like to suggest that the hotspots, we reduce that to 0 because we already have 13K that we haven't spent.
what I'm gonna do, hold on, before we muddy the water. What I want you to do, because you seem to have an understanding of where we're at better than I do.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, like, I wanna increase the levy by 10K to help that new reserve. But if we're at 3.68 on the capital side alone, then maybe we look at a levy increase for 25 and let staff do their work internally. What are your thoughts on,
The hotspots?
no, on the recreation master plan part, there's 25.
Yeah, internal, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just wipe it off and don't have any increase, because we're at 3.78 and I'm trying to do the math, but I'm getting confused, obviously, but.
So through Mr. Chair, in 2024, if staff are doing an internal review, part of what we can also do, is work towards with the recreation committee towards what a public engagement might look like to seek feedback. That actual public engagement might actually be better to take place after the PCC has had its full season to be utilized. So we may be looking into 2025 just to give everyone a chance, the community a chance to use these new facilities. So I do think the work undertaken in 2024 will be internal with some work with the recreation committee and get those facilities used a little bit before we seek that feedback.
So you're comfortable then with us removing this 25K levy increase,
And
because you can do it internally for 24 and we can look at it. in
and then
25?
potentially an additional in 2026. So maybe 2025 and 2026 would make most sense.
And then we should at least have a full year of soccer on that field. And we'd have 2 years on the remainder of the facilities, in theory. That won't prohibit other improvements if community groups come forward for other facilities. Staff and council can make those decisions. We just,
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, this is a large project to undertake, the Parks Master Plan. Again, it being 10 years since we did the last, I think doing this sort of upfront work is the right way to do it. Before we start spending money on sort of, looking at establishing anything new.
all right, so at the end of the day, we're gonna not do the 25K consultant levy increase. Essentially, we just need more time. Councilor Bailey?
I think that is making sense. So we're gonna do in-house staff, preliminary review, bit of engagement, and then look into a little more in 2025. I think I'm good with that.
Councilor?
Or
Yes, I thank you, Courtney, for the sort of having the rec committee kind of guide what that engagement will look like to sort of feed into that plan, I think is a really good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So.
We can. So I can read the resolution that I have here. That council directs staff to allocate 25K identified in 2025 and 25K identified in 2026 to fund a recreation parks master plan update, and allocate this towards the new discretionary reserve pertaining to administration studies. And that council directs staff to undertake a review of the existing master plan, township facilities, upgrades and construction projects that have taken place in accordance with the current master plan, and to develop a public engagement strategy in consultation with the recreation committee.
Okay, can I get a move for that, please? Councilor Hurst, second by Councilor Goyette. Any further discussion?
I just want a clarification. Are you saying that the 25K that you have here is going into the reserve, or are you saying it's zeroed out?
Through you, Mr. Chair, zeroed out for 2024. I've made a note for 2025 and for 2026.
That's fine, good.
Good.
All in favor? Can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Or I can never take a break.
We're just gonna take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back. I believe the next item or area we're going to discuss are the parking lot and associated enhancements. Is there a budget impact of this? I think that was just more for information, correct?
Yes, it's just outlining the cost increase and it will be funded by the Parkland Dedication Restricted Reserve, the increase, as well as the county cost sharing agreement.
Part of that discussion was a new sign out front, and where is that landed? Is it, I think there might be some misunderstanding going on there, that it had to be all fundraised through third party or something. Do we just have an update on that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we have engaged the Recreation Committee on this project. There was some council direction a little while ago related to contributing some of the portion of the cost through fundraising, and to have our Recreation Committee sort of act as a liaison with our community groups to see how and if that could take place. So that's part of what we saw through the Recreation Committee's goals and objectives for this year in this term. So that work on the fundraising has not taken place yet, but the Rec Committee will be working with our community groups to see what we can do.
And do we need to design the sign so we know how much money we need, so then thus we know how much money we need to fundraise, or?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I think we did do some work on what the costs of the signs are, and that was reported through a previous council report. They are, and our Director of Finance might be able to assist with the actual costs, but they were not inexpensive for a digital sign.
My recollection was 35K.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Mrs.
capital.
San,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Mrs. San, how much of, say, a $35,000 sign at the PCC could be funded through the asset or the Parkland Education Reserve? How much would qualify if you, I know that's kind of asked you off the cuff, but. Is it an eligible expense or is it, we'll have to land somewhere else?
I'd have to look into that.
Okay, I'd like to know, please, or we would like to know. But we can leave that now. Sounds like staff are working with it and.
Mr. Mayor, one of the suggestions I made was that we look at corporate sponsors, because they'll have their logo on top, like you can approach Maple Leaf, or you can approach the New Water Company, or you can approach some of the gravel pit operators and see how much they'll be willing to contribute.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. I just was worried that it was gonna be hinged on entirely community fundraising. And I don't believe that was the intent. It's, I mean, there's a co-op here that, which is fine. And ultimately, I'd like to see a nice new sign at the front of that facility, especially since everything we're doing, and now we're doing the parking lot, the facilities are done. It's just all a piece of the puzzle. So just, it sounds like the work's still being done, so.
Just a follow-up question. When you talk about the Rec Committee reaching out to community groups, that was gonna be my question. Is a community group a corporation within the community, or is it just a listing of who our community groups are in terms of fundraising? And then if a corporation was interested in sponsoring or donating money or doing something, what avenue do they have to be, do they reach out directly to the Rec Committee? What's sort of the process with a corporation wanting to donate funds, reaching out to us?
So Mr. Chair, I can start, and if our director has anything to add, but so I don't think we have narrowed it to the point where we would say just our community groups or just these sorts of people. I think that's an ongoing conversation with the Recreation Committee on what that sort of fundraising could look like. We are also, the township staff are also working on a donation policy, so that we can help sort of guide how to accept donations and that sort of thing. So that's still kind of all in the works, so we can certainly report back on both the policy and the community liaison project that the Recreation Committee has ongoing.
Yeah, sounds like a donation policy would be a big key piece to bringing in funds that aren't municipally funded. Great, thank you.
Right, so I think that's good. I think you're still working on that. I'd just like to see that project not get bogged down in, delays, whether it's, trying to get the fundraising going, because it will be the final piece of that ground, so I'll leave that with staff. All right, next I believe we're gonna discuss Forum Park. I don't know if there's a staff member that wants to give us a Cole's note of this report. I believe there's the recommendations to not do anything further with Forum Park, but maybe Mr. Fowler or you, Ms. Whitefox.
So through Mr. Chair, I can just start, and then Mr. Fowler will have specifics on the work that's taken place at Park so far. So we did reach out to GM Blue Plan, our engineering firm, to take a look at the stormwater management facility at Forum Park. So that includes the stormwater ditches and the dry pond. And GM Blue Plan, as outlined in the report, in the schedule attached to this report, has provided 4 different options to consider. 2 of them are extremely costly, and both of those include some sort of a re-engineering of the stormwater management facility itself. The other 2 options are also costly, and they include landscaping or like a fencing option. So staff did review this in detail, as well as considered the work that has already taken place at Forum Park through the playground upgrade. And as outlined in the report, staff have incorporated some plantings to delineate the playground area from the ditch line. And do not recommend any further work at this time. It's cost prohibitive. And in addition, the landscaping work that's been done, staff feel that it does contribute to sort of delineating the park from the stormwater facility that's there. And it came in at a more reasonable cost, around $2,500 for those plantings, which will be incorporated into the cost of the park. And again, if I've missed anything, our Director of Public Works is on the line as well.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Fowler?
To you, Mr. Chair, no, that was presented quite well. I have no other comment.
All right, do we need a resolution to indicate we're not doing any further work at Forum, or just?
Through you, Mr. Chair, when you received that portion of it, but if there's not any specific direction out of this piece of it, then no.
Oh, I have a question. I'll go around the table. Councilor Billy?
No,
Anybody else?
I don't, I mean, is there on Friday for the ribbon cutting, and the park looks fantastic, and I understand just through some conversations where the plantings will go, and I think that's gonna be quite appropriate for delineating where the park is and then where the ditching goes. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and hopefully that will help with some of the concerns we've had.
Councilor Goya?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, what am I thinking?
No question.
I'm just anxious. It's in her, she's there. Bringing me to the park.
I'm anxious for your.
I only have 2 easy questions. The plantings that will delineate the playground, that will happen in the spring.
Through you,
Or now.
Mr. Chair. Yes, that is the intention. Again, as indicated with the soccer field, it's getting later in the season, and some of the plantings are not advisable at this time to be planted.
Not advisable to plant in the fall.
Yeah, okay,
It's late in the season.
that's good, okay. And then my second question, Mr. Fowler might kill me from a maintenance perspective, but the tree legacy, I think they have like a tree planting, like a Warden's tree planting or something like that.
Yeah, it moves around the county.
Is that something, I don't know, I don't wanna. Is that something that would maybe be appropriate there?
So are you wanting Mr. Fowler to try to source some trees from Green Legacy?
Well, I just know that like the park, like the outside perimeter of the park is just kind of like open field. Maybe it would be appropriate to plant like little seedlings along the perimeter, the outside perimeter of the park. But I don't know how that affects
You know, that'd be
grass
great,
cutting and stuff like that.
be great for, some of the youth soccer and baseball groups to give back by, you know, we could, facilitate Mr. Fowler working with Green Legacy to get saplings, and we have maybe council goes there as well, and we plant some trees each year. I don't know.
In no mow zone.
So you have to have your tree order in, right around now. I don't know if you know, Mr. Fowler, but your order needs to be now for next year, I believe. Green Legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would suggest, Counselor Goyda is maybe asking staff to reach out to Green Legacy to see what trees they have available. Maybe we could organize a day where whatever members are available and a youth group or something like that to do some planting. So, and Mr. Fowler could maybe have some ideas of where it would be all right. There is probably a minimum distance from the park benches, correct, Mr. Fowler?
Yes, that would be appropriate. Actually, if I may, I just have a side note that back in 2016, this was actually presented to council at the time to plant trees at Borum Park, and it's my understanding in the notes I reviewed that the actual community was against it, and that's why it never went ahead with the tree plantings. So just something to be aware of.
Perhaps as part of the rec committee, that could be one of our engagement projects, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good.
Good idea.
And let me know how I can help, either connecting the dots with Green Legacy and
Youth committee.
Councilor.
Yeah, just one item, pickleball lines on that basketball court, has that been done, or is it considered to be done? I recall mentioning it last year, but I don't know if it got picked up anywhere.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that work has been identified and it has not been completed yet, but I have been told that it will be done by the end of this season.
Thank you.
Mr. Fowler, you and I had a discussion about the front portion of Borum Park. Is there any opportunity to make that into gravel parking kind of along, I don't know, they're not 6x6s, but those wooden posts? And then abutting the asphalt, so I guess I would say maybe in staged increments, as those two things are the same. Is maybe, you know, 1 year we do gravel and a few years later, if we're doing some hot patch somewhere, we could maybe pave it, but initially getting some parking there, is that a possibility?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that was considered in the initial design. It was omitted near the end just for cost savings, but the intent was just to examine the first year of operation of Borum Park as far as if there's any parking conflicts. And then if there appears to be, the possibility of a gravel parking lot can be established.
Okay, so you're gonna keep an eye on that internally, and is that something you guys is a generic term, would be able to do in-house, or is that something you'd be coming back to council for?
The possibility is there to have it done in-house. As far as, you know, promising a certain date or time, it'll all reflect upon, the other responsibilities of public works staff. So it is a possibility at this time, yes.
Okay, no, I'm glad you're monitoring it, that's good.
One, just in regards to Borum Park, when we were there last week, I think one thing I noticed was historically there had been like those 6x6 or 8x8 wood posts put in, and it appeared that there was a couple that had rotted or removed, I suspect, to get access for the company that was building the play structure. I'm curious if those could either be replaced or some arbor stone put in there to alleviate somebody from maybe taking a joyride with a vehicle through there and causing damage. Just that was an observation. I'm fine with leaving with parks to assess and go from there.
Mr. Fowler, do you have a comment? Oh, sorry.
No, through you, Mr. Chair, I thoroughly agree. The post was not put back in. I'm quite sure it was damaged during removal, but for aesthetic reasons, I would prefer to actually pull all the posts out and have more of a armor stone barrier across the front.
Okay, you'll manage that. If you need money, you'll come back to us.
Yes, I will.
So, because I'll show you back up. I mean, the longer it's left open, the more likelihood of an incident. So do you have a timeline on when you can at least put a chain across that thing or a rope or something to discourage the honest people that would wreck our facility?
For you, Mr. Chair, this is something that could be probably accomplished within the next couple of weeks before, the snow flies, so I will look
Okay.
into it.
All right, awesome. So, we're
Just
good?
1 second, I can read it out. The council endorsed staff recommendations to include landscaping to delineate the playground from the ditch line at Borum Park at a cost of 2.5K as incorporated into the construction project at Borum Park. And that council requests the Recreation Committee and the Youth Advisory Committee to connect with Green Legacy to investigate the opportunity to plant additional trees at Borum Park, and that public feedback be sought prior to proceeding with plantings.
The mover for that, Counselor Goyda, second by Counselor Bailey. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Carried. I believe the next thing we're going to discuss is the proposed road rehabilitation projects, but staff is gonna take a deeper dive into the costing on those and come back, so I think we can just leave that one until the next meeting, right? Because our costs are going through the roof. LAS is coming to delegate council, so that one's good. I have a comment on Kerr Crescent. In the report, it states that it was received for information. That's true. However, from my conversations with members at the committee, they felt it was more appropriately landing in the IF and HR committee because their thought was that the county needs to look at it as a new policy for the county as a whole. So I wouldn't completely abandon the opportunity to solicit the county to pay a large portion of this. So I would say that we should put together a report for IF and H. So I'm getting a little frustrated. I'm gonna back up. I'm getting a little frustrated with the county because we send it to a committee. And then, I hear that, oh, it shouldn't go to that committee. And I had it with the police services board. I got raked over the coals by the chair of the police services board because they felt that we sent a resolution to the wrong people and I disagree with them. But so now this has gone to roads committee. They feel it's at IF and HR is a delay. So I think going forward, and remind me of this, when we make resolutions to go to the county, I think we should just send it to the clerks and say, and forward to the appropriate committee. And they may not know that every time until the discussion happens, but at least if it stops or creates less delay in these urgent matters, I think that's a good thing. So IF and HR, I think we need to word it in a sense and show why this is important for them to update the or create a policy. Because it's strictly serves the industrial tax base. And what I'm a little worried about is that Erin's building a wastewater treatment plant. And there was a analogy that, well, the county gets 60% of your residential tax bill, why shouldn't they, why wouldn't they kick in portion of the 200 million to build their sewage treatment plant? I think these two things are different. I think that the county is the major benefactor of these. It services, essentially county residents, which are businesses. I think people that are on, receiving the benefit as a resident, then the burden should be on the municipality, but I'm hoping that staff could word something we could take to IF and HR to support that position. Is that any?
So through Mr. Chair, we, the report that staff prepared, and it hasn't come to this council, so we can certainly bring it to this council, the one that was forwarded to the county, the roads committee relating to the request with Kirk Crescent. It was a joint effort between the clerk's team, Public Works, and our finance team to put that together. It did include like a rationale from like a tax perspective, a number of different perspectives on why it made sense. So we can relook at that, or we can bring it to council for review, whatever you feel appropriate, and then re-forward it back to the county.
So, I think what we need to do after hearing it, what I heard was that the feeling was the county need to look at this as a policy for their corporation. So then maybe just tweak that report to say that we're, and ask the county to develop a policy to deal with storm management for exclusive industrial areas within the county. Or at least in relation to percentage of service between industrial, or see, I don't want to get down, this is the experience thing coming up. Whether it's industrial, like commercial, like what we're saying is non-residential. So it could be, anyways, so I'll leave that with you, but I'm gonna use the generic term industrial. So even their policy could say, well, hey, we got, X amount of acres industrial, and there's 4 houses that are actually attached to that drainage ditch, then they could find a percentage. But anyways, our request would be to IF and HR to develop a policy for maintenance of stormwater management. Ponds, what do they call them? Ponds, facilities. And we send that to IF and HR, and now I don't know if council would like to see the revision that maybe staff would add prior to going. I think we should, I guess could you have it back November 8th?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the report's done. I think this is just a small tweak to it, requesting that a policy be developed, and we can certainly bring that back.
Why don't we bring it back November 8th? Because again, we want to get in ahead of the county budget process as well, right? So November 8th. Here's my phone. Minus the roads committee. Second week of November. It'll be tight.
Mr. Mayor, I'm comfortable with you reviewing with the staff and getting on with it. I really don't have a concern.
Okay, let's try and get it on the November roads committee meeting, because they break December and then you're into January and their budget's probably approved.
I did go to the roads committee where that report was presented, and by the way, it was a fantastic report. So if staff want to just tweak it and move it on, I don't even care if I see it. I thought it was quite well done. Yeah, the conversation, there was a lot of it in the room, was just, this seems, it could be sort of precedent setting. We don't really have a policy for this. If we're gonna do it in Lynch, then how are we gonna, so it wasn't that it was a hard no forever. It was just, well, we're just not sure how to handle this right now with one particular municipality. So I think if we can get the ball rolling, this might benefit, other municipalities as well.
Yeah.
Sure, they can. So.
Yeah, we need to pave the way for everybody. That's how we roll down here.
Sounds good. I would say, I would appreciate even just seeing a draft version, just because I haven't seen it before for a personal standpoint, but I wouldn't. If presenting it at the next council meeting, it's going to delay the process in any way, I'd say keep on trucking. If others are comfortable with it, I would share the opinion.
I think we're good for IF and HR. I sit on that committee, so it's the second week in November. We'd be good. Either way, it's better to get it in a little sooner to them to get their, get it out circulated, but we'll work together, you'll pen it. Councilor Goyna?
Yeah, in the meantime, though, we'll still, look at a cost sharing agreement with the industrial users in there as well, like that kind of both will work hand in hand.
How do you feel about that if, you know, you're paying a boatload of taxes already? And then somebody would come and say, hey, I want you to pay more.
Well, I don't know, I guess, you know, it's difficult for me to, relate because I live rurally, I work rurally, so I don't have a whole lot of experience with that, but I mean, in the city, each taxpayer, like presumably pays like a fee for water, wastewater,
Yeah, I just, and I was.
those kinds of things. I have no idea comparatively speaking how, you know, the tax base and fees like that in Puss Lynch compared to those in, like, I have no gauge of that, so.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, cause. You know, think of it as a resident, so you pay your taxes and then if they had to come ditch the road in front of your house, then they hand you a $700 bill because they ditched your road, and then I feel like, well, I already paid my tax. So I'll give you an example of Florida. The taxes are so low, they paved some roads near my mom's house and they did a special assessment and dinged them, you know, like something crazy because they didn't have their taxes up high enough, but I'm worried about, I'm not that worried. I just think it's a tough one for me that they pay their taxes and then we have a maintenance thing. And then we're gonna go and say, well, you need to pay for this, in addition to the large amount of taxes you already pay. That's why I think it's important that the county pay because they're
Yeah.
collecting so much that, so anyways,
But I guess like if you look at it though, you and I at our home are responsible for our own wastewater management on the site, on our own properties. You
this
know,
isn't wastewater, this is runoff. This is.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
still, stormwater.
stormwater. Anyways, I just think it's
It would
It's a tough
just be
one.
good to kind of understand, you know, are there other member municipalities that have special rate policies and for what items, you know, understanding
special
how that.
assessments.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we have, through investigation of this, we have found, municipalities that have, bylaws in effect for this sort of thing to recover costs. We could leave the resolution today just open-ended that we further investigate those cost recovery options. And we can always bring them back to take a look at a future meeting once we've kind of resolved whether or not the county will be contributing.
I suppose
So I share the sentiment, Mr. Mayor. I really have a concern with dinging the ICI sector more than need be. You know, you got a city example. Well, for example, water services, it's taxed such that it's a zero self-sustaining. And I assume the sewer work is the same thing. So I can't see us dinging them after they pay all this money, but agree with you that let's have a look, see what the other municipalities do. Perhaps we grandfather in what's existing and then move forward with somebody else new.
Mhm. He spurred a thought in my mind. We have to be prepared if the argument comes up at IFNHR that the wastewater in Erin is, you know, why isn't the county contributing? But those provinces kicking in money, Erin's, the developers are kicking in money, and then the users are mandated by law to pay enough to maintain that system.
Self-sustaining.
So there shouldn't be any burden on the county. So just another angle, just keep that in mind. And maybe start doing that. Anyways, we'll go find out what other municipalities do. And we'll go from there and hopefully we can get the county to buy in with a new policy for stormwater management in industrial areas. Our best bet.
Okay, so the council directs staff to update the report regarding the request for county funding related to the Kirk Crescent Stormwater Management Facility maintenance to include the request for the county to develop a policy related to contributing financially to local stormwater management facilities. And the council direct staff to further investigate stormwater management cost recovery options for consideration.
Thank you. Move for that, please. Counselor Spo, second, Counselor Goyda. Any final comments? All in favor? Carried. I don't think there's anything in discretionary reserves, is there? We need to discuss. I don't, is this surplus allocation? We're good, Counselor. Ms. Hassan, is there anything that we need to discuss that I've forgotten? Good,
I
back
don't
it up.
believe so. The next few sections are just balances in the reserves.
Sorry, I missed the hotspots. Sorry, what do you know?
Page 4, let's just list it there as an item.
On which page?
Page 4,
Of the agenda or the?
agenda.
You're gonna talk about your gravel road.
No, it's already been, I think we're good. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, my suggestion is we put that at 0. I asked a question and, the answer came back that we have still 13 left over from previous years. I don't see the need to, add another 10. To me, it's a reactionary to something that happens. It could be, something that comes out of the blue type of thing, such as we had the concern with the traffic that, staff engaged a consultant to, look at during the construction and may have something else coming out of the blue, like noise concerns from the operation of the on and off ramps that something should be done.
Okay, so is that a move resolution or are you just gonna include it in the list for the other ones?
I can include it in the list, yep, if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm just doing that.
Okay.
Please. All right, discussion, council?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Sorry,
Sorry, are we okay with that?
yeah, for now, yep, that one will be covered when we do the list, the first ones that I left. We got,
This is just a question, on page 16 of this report under grants. It talks about the Canada Community Building Fund and the OCIF, and the amounts being unknown, but is there any amount currently incorporated into the budget?
Yes, there are amounts incorporated in the 2024 to 2033 capital budget and forecast for both these grants, based on
Okay.
previous year amounts received.
So there is potential that this could possibly increase.
or decrease.
Or,
Yeah.
okay.
We've been fortunate that ours has increased slightly over the last several years. Other municipalities have seen significant decrease. I believe Center Wellington took a big hit
Oh, okay.
last year on one of those two fundings, so knock on wood, we've been pretty stable. But until we know,
And
we don't know.
when do we find out about those two?
Typically in December.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you.
No problem.
All right. I think you're good. Do you have that resolution?
I do, yes. The report FIN 2023-031 entitled 2024 Proposed Capital Budget be received. And the council directs staff as follows relating to the 2024 capital budget, remaining capital budget projects. 1, that council approves the new equipment purchase for wildland firefighting equipment package as presented. 2, that council defers the decision on the compensation and benefits review until a future budget meeting. 3, that council approves the 2024 conservation and demand management plan as presented. 4, that council approves the gas-fired infrared heaters in public works shop replacement as presented. 5, that council approves the replacement of the UV pure water treatment system at the municipal office as presented. 6, that council approves the replacement of the UV pure water treatment system at the Pleasant Community Center as presented. 7, that council approves the PCC door and window replacement program at the budget presented, and that council directs staff to investigate the possibility of incorporating door mechanisms or alarms that limit the opportunity for renters to leave doors open for an extended period of time to reduce energy consumption. And number 8, that council directs staff to remove the 10K contribution in 2024 related to the 401 and Highway 6 project review of hotspots.
Moved by Council Spillis, second by Council Bailey. Final comments, questions?
We got it.
Anything from you, Mrs. Sam, before I approve this? Didn't say I approve this, we approve this.
No, I think the other council direction was based on what Ms. Hoyt Fox has been speaking about over the council meeting, has been incorporated in the council direction, so we will know how to update council for the next draft of the capital budget.
Okay, all in favor? I think that's it for that report, right?
Yes.
Any notice of motion? What?
Great.
What trouble? What trouble are you causing?
Thank you. Why are we?
So through Mr. Chair, the notice of motion is on the agenda today and for consideration at our next meeting, November 8th.
Oh, it is there.
Yeah.
I was so overwhelmed with the report that,
Let's scroll down.
okay. Well, read her out.
Just read it out?
Yeah.
Okay, whereas the township has a procedural bylaw that requires all council and committee meetings to be audio and video recorded and published to the township's YouTube page, and whereas the Recreation Advisory is not a statutory committee required by any act, and whereas as the committee functions best when open dialogue and full participation is encouraged. Therefore, in order to facilitate open dialogue and encourage full participation and discussion during the Recreation Advisory Committee meetings, be it resolved that procedural bylaw be amended to remove the requirement for Recreation Advisory Committee meetings to be video recorded and published to the township YouTube page.
All right, thank you for that. All right, confirmatory bylaw.
Yes. That the following ballot be taken as read 3 times and finally passed on from council. Ballot 2023-045, being ballot to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the township of Plestinch at its meeting held on the 25th day of October 2023.
Can you get a mover for that, please? Council Spillis, second by Council Goyda, all in favor? Carried, and adjournment, please.
Council hereby adjourns at 12:34 p.m.
Can you move it, please? Councilor Hurst, Councilor Bailey, all in favor? And that's it. Thank you, everyone.